Hey everybody, my name is Alexis Marin and I'm a registered drama therapist, a life coach, and a speaker. And for today's sound advice, I wanted to talk to you about boundaries, consequences, and guardrails. All right, so I know all of you at some point have watched a video or read a book or looked at a blog about how to set boundaries and why that is an important thing to do inside of relationships. But I want to give you a little bit of a different perspective, perhaps, but maybe you've already read it this way, in that a boundary is something that you need to set with somebody else so that they don't cross over into territory that makes you uncomfortable. Now, a boundary is really only effective, though, if there is also a consequence attached to it that you are willing to implement should the person that you're setting the boundary with cross the boundary. Okay. So for example, setting a boundary with somebody and saying a consequence would sound like the following. Hey partner, when we are in an argument, please do not call me names. Calling me names like stupid or insecure or fat or ugly, really horrible labels, those make me feel incredibly disrespected. The next time we argue, if you call me one of those names, I am going to immediately leave the room and we're going to have to finish the conversation later. Because when we argue, the consequence is if you do that inside of an argument, I'm going to leave the room. Now, the most important thing about the consequence that you attach to the boundary is that you must be willing to follow through with the consequence. So it has to be something that you're actually willing to do. And you don't want to say something like, if you call me a name inside of an argument, I'm going to buy a plane ticket and fly across the country. That's not a realistic consequence. It's something that you need to be able to do in the moment, feel comfortable with it, and then be able to sort of make a contract with the person that you set the boundary with that at some point you're going to be able to come back and revisit this thing. So once again, a boundary that you set with somebody else is, this line that I'm telling you do not cross. When you cross this line, when you cross this boundary, here is this consequence, here's what this looks like, and here's how this may affect our relationship. Boundary, consequence. Now, the other concept that I wanted to introduce to you that maybe you haven't heard before is the concept of a guardrail. So I want you to imagine that you are driving down a very windy road on the side of a mountain. Oftentimes you'll see little silver, what we call guardrails along the edge of the mountain. That guardrail is there not necessarily to prevent something from coming up the mountain and onto the road, but that could be as well, like an animal or something. But really, that guardrail is there to keep you inside of the road where it's safe. It's so that you don't go over, right? So where a boundary is for somebody else to not come into your territory, a guardrail is to keep you safe so that you don't go over the edge emotionally and physically. So a guardrail is something that you're going to set for yourself. It is an expectation that you are going to keep working towards to keep your own sanity. So for example, a guardrail would be something like, I am not going to continue to call or text this person because they are not adding any value to my life. So guardrail for today is I am not calling or texting this person for 24 hours. Now, sometimes you can apply a motivational factor to it, also like a consequence. If I text this person, if I call this person, my consequence is that I am going to lose some of my self-worth. My consequence is that I'm going to have to lock up my phone because I don't trust myself. So guardrail consequence is, this is what I'm doing to protect myself, maybe from myself, from my own activities, right? To keep me protected so that I don't go over and do something that could potentially hurt me even more than the situation that I'm already in. Setting boundaries is an incredibly easy transaction in that you're actually just explicitly saying the thing that somebody else can no longer do and how it affects you. But the hardest part about setting boundaries is that you do have to be able to recognize the behavior that somebody else is doing that you really want them to stop, why they need to stop doing it. And lastly, once again, I will repeat that once you know that boundary and you ask them and they continue to cross over that boundary, you must be prepared to follow through with the consequence. Otherwise, you are just teaching them that they continue to step over all of your boundaries and that they don't actually mean anything to you. Same thing applies to setting guardrails for yourself. If you continue to go outside of your own guardrail, I want you to imagine it's like you are jumping off of that side of the mountain every single time. And think how much damage that can do just once to jump over that guardrail. How is that hurting you? And how is that potentially setting back the clock of healing that you are trying to set for yourself? Okay, everybody, that is my mini lecture on boundaries, consequences, and guardrails. I hope that this was helpful to you today. I hope that the people that are needing to hear this today are hearing this. If you are interested in hearing more sound advice from me, please subscribe. I have the button down at the corner of my video here today, and I'd love to hear any comments that you have. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Have a good day. Bye.